Hey guys, today I want to talk about and compare two different stereo integrated amplifiers that I own, and I want to compare them because I think they have some similarities and differences, and both are around the $1,000 price point, so they're really around the same budget. So I thought it'd be interesting to kind of take a look at them both. One of them I actually just bought. So yeah, let's take a look. First up is my Rotel A12. So this is currently my stereo integrated amp that I use with my desktop speakers. I got this I think 2 years ago, and almost 2 years ago. And yeah, it's been a very interesting amplifier because I think this is a pretty decent value for the money. You do get a lot out of it. So first of all, Rotel is a Japanese company. They've been family owned, I believe, up to the current generation. They originally started in the 1950s, and they've been pretty much doing the same thing, you know, for 70 years now, which is kind of crazy. So they make pretty high quality integrated amplifiers, and the A12 is, I would say, more towards their affordable level because they do make more expensive integrated amplifiers, but most of Rotel's amps tend to be around the $1,000 to $2,000 range, so they're not super expensive. Yeah, I would say that their main competitor at this price point in the Japanese space would probably be Marantz. But yeah, you know, there's so many great Japanese audio companies making amplifiers, like, yeah, Marantz and Yamaha and Denon. Technics, but Technics is a little bit more higher end. If you go even higher end, you can get into like companies like Luxman and Accuphase. So yeah, a lot of great Japanese companies making amplifiers. Rotel is one of them. And I remember comparing this to the NAD amplifiers and Cambridge Audio amplifiers, which are also competitors from other countries, and picking the Rotel because it just gave you so much for what you got. So first of all, like I said, amplifier costs around $1,000 US. It's rated at about 60 watts RMS. So it's not like really powerful, but it's generally enough for bookshelf speakers. And I think 60 watts is okay for the $1,000 price range. Let's start off by looking at the front panel controls first. So you have your power button right here. Then you have your charging port. Then you can plug in any USB device like a phone to charge it. Then you have a headphone out. This is 3.5 millimeter, not 1/4. And I think 1/4 is generally more common among stereo amps, but you know, 3.5 is fine as well. This one is interesting because it has two sets of speaker terminals, which is very different, I think, compared to the other amps of this price range. That's one reason I looked at the Rotel, is because it's two sets of speaker terminals, not just one. So that's pretty cool. It actually can drive two sets of speakers. So you can actually switch between them. And it's also really nice for A/B testing speakers as well. So say you got two sets of speakers, you want to compare them. Well, it's really easy to just hook them up both to the Rotel and just kind of switch between them both. You can kind of A/B test them this way. And in addition to that, the Rotel can actually drive both of them at the same time. So you can actually turn both of these on and drive both sets of speakers at the same time. So what an incredible feature by the Rotel amp here. So that's really cool. Not many other amps at this price range has that ability. And then you have the display here. It's pretty simple display. And then you have all these different inputs. So you got phono input, actually has a built-in phono preamp for moving magnet, of course. At this price range, you wouldn't get any kind of moving coil. So yeah, just a basic phono preamp for a moving magnet. So I think for any entry-level vinyl person getting into vinyl, they'll be fine. Tuner, CD, USB input. I think this USB input specifically refers to maybe this input here, because I think this can charge your phone, but it can also, you can also plug in a USB flash drive to kind of play off of that flash drive. So that's pretty interesting. So it does have a USB connection here, so you can just play files from your flash drive. Optical, so you can hook this up to your TV. Digital coaxial, and you have another aux as well. And PC USB, because this has a built-in DAC and USB connection to your computer. I think it uses a Wolfson, was it W8740, something like that? WM8740 or something like that. It's an older DAC. Wolfson DACs are, you know, they're generally out of favor now compared to ESS Sabre DACs. So it's an older DAC, but still fairly highly performant, I would say. You still get your, I think it's 24-bit, 192 kilohertz. So you still get pretty good specs there, but you have to install an extra driver on the computer to get those really high res files. And then Bluetooth, right? It has Bluetooth connectivity as well. aptX. And menu button to go to the menu, and then plus and minus for this for adjusting when you're in the menu to adjust different options like bass and treble, etc. In balance. and then you have your rotary dial for your knob here. So this is for volume. So yeah, all in all, this is yep, a lot of actually buttons on the front panel. So that's definitely a lot of features that the Rotel gives you. We can also take a look at the build quality. Just look how solid this looks, right? Kind of see the components through the grills of the chassis here, right? So they do have a custom built toroidal transformer inside of there. All the components and parts are made by Rotel, by the way, so they don't really use any off-the-shelf components. They really design and make all their own parts. Very, very high quality. I can tell this chassis is very solid quality as well. It's solid like aluminum. So yeah, Rotel products are always built to a very high standard, as you would expect actually from a Japanese product like this. All right, now look at the back. See many features on the back here for connecting different devices. So, all right, here we have, going from left to right, you have the phono input right here, which also has a ground to connect your ground cable. And then your CD input doesn't have to be for a CD player. This is actually just another aux input, but they just label it CD. Tuner, same thing, doesn't have to be for a TV tuner or anything. This can be anything. This is another aux input. They just label it like that. And you have 2 additional aux inputs as well. So really you have 4 different aux inputs here. And then you have a pre-out. This pre-out can be used to connect a subwoofer cable. So that's what I use for my subwoofer to connect it. And then you have a Bluetooth antenna right here, aptX, right? So you get decent Bluetooth quality out of that. And then you have a USB input here. This is where you connect the cable, so you can make use of the built-in DAC here. And the Rotel Link, I don't have Rotel Link. Yeah, so I'm not really too sure what this is. Maybe this can be used to control this via another separate component. You have all these things I don't really know too much about. Maybe someone in the comments can clarify this for me. But there's extension, a 12-volt trigger out. I don't really use that stuff. I have noticed a lot of amps have this stuff, but I don't really know too much about it. Digital input, so you have 2 digital coaxial ins and 2 optical inputs as well. So yeah, this is pretty interesting actually. You can 2 optical inputs. I actually don't know what you would actually put in 2 optical inputs. I think you'll just use 1, but I don't know, maybe some circumstances you might use 2. I know there's like some video game consoles and stuff that have optical out, so maybe you might want to put multiple video game consoles here or something, I don't know. And then the RS-232, again, this might be related to this stuff, which I don't know too much about, like a controller or something like that. Okay, this is another USB power. So I think maybe the front one is used to, you put your USB stick into the front USB port and you can play files off of it. And this one is for charging your phone. Yeah, they anyways have 2 USB inputs, one in the front, one in the back. You have 2 sets of speaker terminals here, which is a really nice feature, actually, because like I said, most amps in this price range only have 1 set of speaker terminals, and the Rotel A12 has 2. So that's pretty impressive. And then the power. So yeah, I would say overall this is a pretty nice value for what you get. Very solid build quality, solid components, a lot of different features. Yeah, overall very nice amp for the price for $1,000. That's why when I compared it to the equivalent Cambridge Audio or NAD or Marantz amps, the Rotel just kind of won out. Just gave me a lot of features for the price. And yeah, like I said, it's 60 watts RMS, but does have 2 speaker terminals. I guess if you turn both of them on at the same time, it might be 30 watts to both speakers. It might be splitting them equally, I'm not sure. But yeah, I think that overall this is a very high value amp. You get a lot for what you pay for. And yeah, just generally very nice build quality, a lot of features. And I really like it. I've been using this for the past, over 1.5 years. So yeah, the Rotel A12 is a very nice amp. So, all right, the reason I want to talk about the Rotel is because I just got another amp. And this is an amp I just got, which is the Leak Audio Stereo 130. And I kind of want to just contrast this with the Rotel. All right, so let's talk about this amp. Maybe many people don't know what Leak Audio is, but Leak Audio is an old school British hi-fi brand. They've been around since Oh, they started in the 1930s actually. So it goes way back, almost 100 years actually. And they're probably most well known for people who lived in the 40s, 50s, and 60s. So they're really old school brand, and they kind of went out of business in the early 70s. So that's why many young people probably don't know this brand in the audiophile circles, right? Maybe some really old school audiophiles know about this brand, but for the most part, most audiophiles probably don't really know too much about Leak Audio. That's because they've been out of business for like 50 years. But recently they've been revived, and yeah, this is one of their the products that they came out with. Is the Leak Stereo 130. They have two models. I think there's one model that's has a little bit more power than this one, but this is their lower powered product. So yeah, I was really attracted to this product. First of all, look at the finish, right? It's got a really nice walnut finish here. Oh yeah, so you can also see the Toyota transformers inside the Leak Audio too. So if I turn it this way, maybe you guys can see better. Definitely like this grill here, like I said, is metallic, so that's really nice. And you can definitely see some nice toroidal transformers and caps inside here. Yeah, so that's pretty nice. You show the other way actually. You can see the caps on this side. See? So that's really cool. You get some visibility into the components, just like you can with the Rotels. So you can definitely tell that the Leak Audio definitely put a lot of time and attention into the build quality and into the circuits and everything, just like Rotel does. So both of these amps, I would say they pay some attention to the components and the quality of the materials and everything. So yeah, I would say they give you a pretty decent value for the money at this price point, because yeah, they're definitely not cheaply made or anything. So that's pretty nice. Yeah, and look at this. I think this is actually like real wood. Yeah, I think this is real wood. It's not like any sort of like vinyl wrapping made to look like wood. This is real wood here. So that's really nice, and that really kind of drew me to this amplifier because I do care about the aesthetics a bit. The Rotel looks really industrial, like a lot of Japanese amps do, but the Leak Audio definitely looks more vintage, hi-fi. So yeah, Leak Audio is actually known for making many vintage style tube amps, but this one is actually a solid state amp. I think that's just because of keeping up with the times, right? These days, most people prefer solid state amps. Most audiophiles I think are satisfied with solid state amps because they just give you a lot of power, they give you a lot of features, it's less maintenance than tube amps. There are a small portion of audiophiles that still prefer tube amps, and all the power to them. I understand there's something special with tube amps and stuff, but I would say the majority of audiophiles are sticking with solid state amps. It's just way less maintenance, give you more power, and generally more features as well, right, compared to tube amps. So yeah, this also retails for around $1,000. Actually, it's a little bit higher than that. I think there was originally MSRP was $1,200, and yeah, I got this for $1,000 because it's a secondhand one, but it's still really good condition. So yeah, I basically got this used for $1,000. So I think Leak Audio only came back around 3 years ago. So yeah, the brand only got revived 3 years ago. So the brand doesn't really have much recent history, but I thought might as well take a look, and I looked at a bunch of other British audio brands as well because I'm actually looking for a amplifier for my turntable setup, and I wanted my turntable setup to be kind of more like a British setup, right? So I want to go with all British brands just because like there's so many great British audio brands, so you can easily make like an all British turntable setup basically. And yeah, for the amplifiers, well, for British amplifiers there's a few different choices, right? There's Cambridge Audio, probably competing with the Leak Audio around the same price point. Then there's Arcam, also kind of competing around the same price point. And then if you go a little bit higher, a few $1,000s higher, you'll get to Nime. Nime Audio is very well respected, but it's really out of my budget. And then you can go even higher, right? Then you have brands like Cyrus and Roxanne and Lin, right? Those are all like much higher, much more expensive brands. Rega, right? They make some higher end amps as well. But I think I'm sticking around the $1,000 price range. I saw the Leak Audio, really liked the aesthetic, had a nice selection of features as well, so I got really interested in the Leak Audio. So yeah, that's what kind of swayed me to this over the Cambridge and the Arcam. The Cambridge and the Arcam look very similar to the Rotel. It's very no-nonsense, industrial looking. So yeah, the Leak Audio Stereo 130, it's amplifier inspired by the vintage stylings of the old school Leak Audio products, except now with a more modern technology inside of it. So yeah, I'm gonna take a look at the manuals here. I can tell you that right now that even the manuals here are pretty vintage design, because I mean, it's not like your standard like white paper manual here. They use some interesting paper here to try to make it look more vintage and old school, which is cool. So this is setting up the USB and DSD setup. Yes, this supports DSD. So this is instructions for Windows. You say Windows 7 and Windows XP and Vista, really? Wow, are people still running XP and Vista? I'd be surprised. Yeah, so this is trying to set up instructions for setting up 24-bit 192 kilohertz audio. I'm assuming you would need a driver. Yes, you would. Yeah, just like the Rotel, you need to install a driver to get this high-res files to play on the computer. They recommend Fubar 2000. I actually have JRiver Media Center, so I hope that one works as well. But Fubar 2000, I haven't used that actually, but I know that's kind of popular for some audio files. Well, you need a Super Audio CD plugin. And then on Mac, yeah, it's on iTunes. Ugh, iTunes. I shudder when I hear that name. Yep, this is on media setup. Okay. Yeah, I haven't really done too much of this. Ardavana Plus. That's another Mac app, I guess, to play PCM DSD audio. Okay, interesting. Ardavana Plus. I haven't used any of these apps, actually. Well, iTunes I've used, but not Ardavana Plus or Fubar. All right, so yeah, Leak Audio is in Cambridgeshire, Huntingdon, Cambridgeshire. Oh, that's such an English-sounding name, UK. All right, and then the actual user manual, which is very charming. Look at this. It's like so old school and charming. I love it. Stereo 130, and it's got these like cute little diagrams and stuff on it. It's like, yeah, I like it. It's neat. All right, take a look. Getting started. It's a high-performance, high-fidelity integrated amplifier designed for the audio enthusiast. Designed to be the perfect match to a wide variety of sources. And connected to both analog and digital sources. Yep, as a moving magnet phono. Okay, yep. I mean, that's expected actually for something like this. Yeah, it's nice that it has a phono preamp, but I wasn't expecting anything like a moving coil preamp. Definitely moving magnets, what you get in this price range. Well, output is so it has a DAC in it. And has built-in aptX Bluetooth. So yeah, very similar to the Rotel in terms of those specs. Okay, so the output of this is a little bit lower than the Rotels. So this is 65 watts RMS, but that's for 4 ohms. So actually for 8 ohms it's 45 watts RMS, whereas the Rotels are 60 watts RMS 8 ohms. So the Rotels are a little bit more powerful. So keep in mind, the Leak Audio is actually slightly more expensive too, but it's a little bit less powerful. Actually, 45 watts RMS for 8 ohms. And then it has a ESS ES9018K2M DAC inside of it. I think this DAC is a little bit better than the one on the Rotels, actually. The Rotel has, well, the new A12 Mark II has upgraded the DAC to ESS Sabre, but I have the Mark I, which is a Wolfson DAC. It's a little bit older. So I think this Leak Audio DAC is a little bit better than the one I have on this Rotel. So yeah, this has the ESS Sabre DAC, which is, yeah, it's a little bit newer than the Wolfson I have on the Rotels. And the Bluetooth 4.2 aptX, they both have aptX, so that's roughly equivalent. It's got 2 optical inputs, just like the Rotel, 1 RCA coax input. One RCA coax input, and then this is the optical output and a coax output, and 2 aux inputs, a moving magnet phono input, and a 1/4 inch headphone jack output. Yep. And it has firmware update slot. All right, so you have a nice diagram here. See, I like this. This is cool. I don't think the Rotel manual came with anything like this. Yeah, I really they did a good job on this manual here. It's pretty charming actually. They put all these. Even the paper. I mean, it's not the standard paper you get with most manuals, right? Even they made the paper a little bit more vintage looking. This is remote, which by the way, I have actually not showed the remote for the Rotel. So this is the Rotel remote. It looks like this. So obviously you have the on button. You can choose between 2 different speaker sets. Like I said, with the Rotel, it can actually drive 2 different speakers, or 2 different sets of speakers, I should say. Bypass, bass, treble balance menu. This is your navigation, I guess, for the menu. Enter, exit, dim, volume, just, and then you have these buttons here. I guess it's for I don't know, actually. This is, do you really need this many numbers? I wonder what this all these numbers are needed for. I mean, it's a stereo amp, right? I guess if you want to manually input the volume, yeah, I'm not really sure why you need so many. It's like a remote control for a TV or something. Yeah, play, pause, stop. This one, what is this for? This is like it's opening a CD or something, but this doesn't, it's not a CD player. So I don't know what this would be for. Unless it's just Rotel is just making the same remote for all their devices and they just use the same mold or whatever. Like this looks like it's for a CD player. And I know Rotel makes CD players, but this is an amp, so I don't really know what that's for. Tune is for, oh, this is for the FM tuner, I guess. Then I guess you could like manually enter the radio station. Could be interesting preset, I guess, for the radio station stuff. So that's what the tuner is for. I guess it's for the FM tuner. And switch between phono, CD tuner, USB, optical 1, 2, coaxial 1, 2, Bluetooth, PC, USB, aux 1, aux 2, yeah. So yeah, this is a pretty fully featured remote, I guess. Maybe too much. I think this is really overkill for a stereo integrated amplifier. You don't need this many buttons for a stereo amplifier, come on. Okay, so that's the Rotel remote. Now let's look at the Leak Audio remote. There's slightly less buttons, which is better, I guess, but still, in my opinion, too many buttons here. So yeah, power, mute, both very useful, obviously. But then they have these numbers as well. I don't really get why you need so many numbers for a stereo, amplifier. It's not a TV, so why do you need so many numbers for? Prog, store. You can store some presets, I guess. Repeat, menu, random. What's random? It's like a random song or something that's playing. Volume up and volume down, and left, right, play, pause. Yeah, I like this interface a little bit better than the Rotels. Just have it all separate buttons. Just reduce the amount of buttons, okay? On like Leak Audio does it. Like this is better. You can reduce the amount of buttons by doing this. See again, what is this? This looks like it's for a CD player, and I know that Leak Audio also made a CD player as well to complement this, but I don't have that. So maybe just, again, use the same, yeah, here we go, CD. Oh, is this for, no, it doesn't even have a CD input here. Nope, I don't really understand. Device, CDA, what does that mean? This is not a CD player, so I'm guessing it's the same thing like with the Rotel. They have the same mold for all their remotes, and they just, yeah, in order to save costs, I guess they just made the same remote for every device. Because this is something that would be used for a CD player, but it's an amp. Stop, and then how is this different than this one? I feel like there's a lot of redundancy here. Yeah, this also goes, but this also goes left and right. Okay, this is input, I get that. Direct filter, folder. What does folder mean? Does this have a USB input or something? Actually, it doesn't even have a display. So unlike the Rotel, this one does not even come with a display, so I don't know how you would even see anything on here. So I don't know what this folder for. Time, info, display. Time. There's no display here. So what is it talking about? Time, info, display. There's no display. Yeah, I'm guessing that they just so Rotel and Leak, I'm guessing what happened is they make the same remote for all their devices. So I know they sell CD players, and a lot of the stuff, it looks like it's very relevant to CD players, not for an amp. Like the Leak Audio, it doesn't even have a display, so why does it have stuff that's like time, info, display? That doesn't make any sense, right? So anyways, the remotes are fine. Yeah, it just could be a lot smaller because they honestly put way too much here. It's not necessary. I think it's for different devices too. Okay, so anyways, those are the remotes. I will not use the remote for the Rotel, by the way, because this is just sitting on my desktop. I don't really need that. But for Leak Audio, I'll be using that on my turntable setup, so I definitely will use the remote for that. Okay, so that was the remote here, which you saw in this diagram. And then you have AC power connection, digital. Okay, so this one I think has two power buttons. There's a power on-off switch, and there's a front power button. I think one is for making sure that the AC power is connected, and then another one's actually for turning on the device. Yeah. Not really sure why it needs two power connections on and off, but yeah. Digital signal, output connections, analog signal, output connections, okay. And then you have another nice little diagram here, how to connect it to your speakers. Passive speakers, of course. Yeah, if you want to use powered speakers, you would probably have to use the pre-output. Analog signal input connection, phono digital, yeah, phono and digital. So, and then update, ground terminal, okay. This is connected to a computer. It has a built-in DAC, so you can also connect it to your computer with USB. And then standby mode, volume control, play music with your analog inputs for digital inputs. Okay, another nice diagram here. Play music via USB input, so it does have a USB input, just like with the Rotel. I guess you can play from that. Oh no, this is with yeah, this is for the Windows computer. Okay, that's different. The Rotel actually has two USB inputs. One of them I think is for USB key, which I think you can use to play off music off of USB key. I don't think the Leak Audio has that. And then you have Bluetooth, of course, also aptX, same as the Rotel. Bass, treble, balance, direct, protection mode. Okay, look, what's direct? So direct bypasses certain circuits within the amplifier design by stopping the power supply to these circuits. It reduces noise and electronic interference to reproduce the purest sound as electronically possible. Okay, interesting. Now, this has an interesting direct button. Yeah, I wonder what it says. Apparently, it's a pure sound. So, wonder what's the difference there. Okay, protection mode in terms of condition. Okay, this. Oh, and then we have a spec sheet right here. So if you guys are really interested in specs, yeah, there it is all there. So overall, very nice manual. Definitely higher quality than what I normally expect for electronic devices. All right, now let's take a look at the front panel of the Leak Stereo 130. So compared to the Rotel, it's definitely a lot more minimalistic and more simpler, I think. And I like this way better. I find that the Rotel is almost too overwhelming with the amount of options here. So you can tell on the Rotel there's all these different options, right? So many buttons on the front for selecting inputs and stuff like that. So instead of having all these buttons to select the different inputs, Leak instead just has a single rotary dial for selecting the different inputs, which I find is a more elegant solution. So here you have Bluetooth, USB, optical 1, 2, coaxial, aux 1 and 2, and phono. All your different inputs all selectable via a rotary dial, which takes up less space, right? And then you have a bass knob right here, treble knob, balance, and the direct button here, which according to the manual, it's a more pure sound, whatever that means. I had to try it out to see what this actually does. And then the volume dial right here, the volume knob, and a 1/4 inch headphone out right here. So that's compared to the 3.5 millimeter on the Rotel. This one I think is more likely to be like maybe more at home audio enthusiasts have this this bigger jack, but it doesn't matter too much. You can always use that adapters and stuff like that to switch between them. And then the power button right here. So yeah, that's it for the front panel on the Leak Stereo 130. It's definitely a little bit simpler, more minimalistic compared to the Rotels, and I actually prefer this one more. It's yeah, I like having a little bit more minimalistic. Like I said, the Rotels, it's almost too overwhelming. Yeah, the Leak doesn't have any kind of display here, but I actually think that makes it look even more vintage. Like the Rotel has the LCD display here, which is nice. You know, you can see what input you're getting. You can use the setup menu, and you can, you know, go through and adjust all the controls here, and you see what you're doing from the display. The Leak doesn't have that, but not having that actually helps it look more vintage, I feel, right? Not having LCD display. If it did have it, it will make it look like, you know, more modern, which I guess is the Leak really wants this to be an homage, a throwback to their really old school vintage devices. So I guess that would kind of, yeah, make it look a little bit out of place. And yeah, let's take a look on the back. First, commenting on the build quality. This is, like I said, I think real wood here. So this is really nice build quality here. And even the top here, the vents here, it's not plastic or anything. You can hear that, right? This is like metal, right? That's like metal. So that's really nice. I think the build quality on the Leak Stereo is solid. So really commendable. I really like the build quality here. It's just as good as the Rotel, just using different materials. So yeah, very solidly built. Okay, now look at the controls at the back here. You also have a lot of controls, although maybe not quite as much as the Rotels, but it does still have a lot. So let's take a look here. So first we have the phono input here. So yeah, this does have a phono preamp, just like the Rotel, with a for moving magnet, of course, with a ground right here, so you can connect your turntable. And I think this amp probably fits better with a turntable, I'd say, right? Because it looks more vintage, so in my opinion, it fits better with a turntable. So anyways, I think a lot of vinyl enthusiasts will probably want to hook this up. Maybe yeah, using the built-in phono preamp is nice too, but probably I'm using an external phono preamp with my turntable anyways. Then there's two aux inputs right here, and pre-out. So this can be used for subwoofer out as well, because this is a pre-out. Or if you want to use this, hook it up to powered speakers, you can use the pre-out as well. You have one set of speaker terminals here, compared to the Rotels too, but like I said, the Rotel is really unique. Most integrated amplifiers around the $1,000 price range, like the Leak, they all come with one set of speaker terminals. So really the Rotel is just special in that regard. So yeah, that's typically what you would expect. And it's lower power. It's 45 watts into 8 ohms compared with 60 watts into 8 ohms. You have the trigger inputs here. Like I said, I don't really know too much about this 12-volt triggers, but I'm sure that's useful to some people. There's a coaxial and optical out here. So that's interesting. I'm not sure. Yeah, maybe you can, there's some digital, yeah, maybe like some powered speakers or something like that, or some digital amplifiers or speakers that might make use of this. So yeah, I'm thinking about what this would use case would actually be, to have a optical out or coaxial out here. But you know, maybe a digital amplifier, digital speakers, powered speakers or something like that can use this. And coaxial, optical 1 and 2 in, USB, and update here. So 2 optical inputs is interesting. I think that's the same as Rotels as well, but I guess you can use this one for a TV and then one for something else, like a video game console or something like that. Yeah, so it's nice that you have 2 optical inputs here, and digital coaxial input as well. For the digital inputs, these are all digital inputs actually. USB, you can connect this to your computer. This has a built-in ESS Saber DAC, which I think is slightly better than the one on the Rotels. So that's nice, and connect to a computer. I'm not, but it's nice to have that ability. And this one is only for update. So I don't think that you can actually plug in a USB key here or charge your phone or something like that. This is only for updating the firmware on the Leak. So this is interesting. I think for some reason, the Leak audio stereo, this one, you have 2 power switches. So you have this one, which I guess is controlling the mains power, like the AC power into this amplifier. And then you have another power button at the front to actually turn this amplifier on. So most devices, like the Rotel or my Cambridge Audio, most other like electronic devices or amps would only have 1 power button, right? Just the one on the front. But it's interesting, this Leak stereo one, maybe because it's trying to be a little bit more old school, also has a main supply power switch, and this is the one on the back here. So you have to turn this one on, and you have to press the power in order to turn on the amp. So yeah, that's an interesting flourish, I guess, for this design. There's 2 power buttons or switches you have to actually turn on. But yeah, that's basically it, and it has aptX Bluetooth, although I can't see the actual Bluetooth antenna on the back. So I'm not sure where they put the Bluetooth antenna, but yeah, we can try out the Bluetooth for sure. That's how I'm going to test this. So yeah, the Rotels actually had a Bluetooth antenna on the back, so I'm not sure. But anyways, they both have aptX Bluetooth ability. So anyways, that's it. That's the Leak Stereo 130. I think this is a very cool looking vintage design, right? I love the wood finish, and it's very, very good build quality all around. The aesthetics, I guess, is what makes this very interesting to me, separates it from the other British amps. Like, for me, like Cambridge Audio or Arkham, they look very industrial looking, very no-nonsense, just like the Japanese amps. And I wanted something a little bit different, especially when I'm looking for something for my turntable setup. I really think that this wood finish and this vintage styling would look really nice in a turntable setup, especially, right? Since I already have the Rotels, which is more industrial looking, this one is, you know, for my desktop amplifier, this one's fine. So yeah, when I'm just, you know, on my computer and stuff, I think this is totally fine. But then for a turntable setup, you want something that looks a little bit more vintage, right? Just to add more to that look, and that's where the Leak Stereo 130 comes in. So yep, now you have these two different, similar yet different amps, I would say. They're both solid state. They're both around the same price. They're very different stylings. They have a similar feature set, I guess. And you know, obviously they're designed very differently because one is Japanese and one is from the UK. So when I say British designed versus Japanese designed, I mean there's differing schools of philosophy here when it comes to designing their devices. So with Japanese amps, like not just the Rotel, but if you look at Denon or Yamaha or Marantz or Pioneer or Technics, any of these guys, you'll see that they're very functional looking, very industrial looking. They give you a lot of features, and they want to show you that they have a lot of features by giving you a lot of controls, right? So you can see like how many controls that they have on their front panel and stuff. And even more on the remote actually. So yeah, Japanese amp designers usually, yeah, they give you a lot of features for the price, and they want to show you that they have a lot of features, so they give you a lot of control of those features just out of the box, right? You can just, you know, easily control any of them. But with British design amps, I find they tend to be more simple, more minimalistic, and focus a little bit more on the aesthetics of the minimalism of the device, making it easy to use. So not just with the Leak audio, as you can tell, but also if you look at other British design amps like Cambridge Audio or Nime, Lin, right? All these other brands, Rega, like Arkham, like all these other British brands, like you can definitely tell there's a design difference here. They tend to focus more on the minimalist aspect of just making it simple and intuitive to use. And yeah, in general, I would say that Japanese design amps have more features, but British design amps tend to focus more on certain features, I would say. So even though it doesn't have as many in quantity, I think British focus more on the quality of certain features. So really, two design schools here. I wouldn't say one is better than the other. It's really like different strokes for different folks, basically. But yeah, I just find that these two design philosophies, because of how they contrast, are very interesting, right, to me. Like American and British designed devices tend to focus more on making the interface easy for the user to control. Maybe they focus more on specialized components and aspects of the device. Whereas Japanese designers tend to focus on giving the user a lot of value, just making it look very, very functional, focusing on the overall feature set. Like, I think, yeah, it's just interesting to me how these two, design philosophies are similar and different at the same time. So, yeah, and one is, I guess, this is more of a very old school brand. Rotel is more of a brand that I guess it's not exactly mainstream, but still, I guess people who are kind of getting into the audio game will have heard of Rotel. Leak Stereo is definitely a brand that most people would not know unless they've been paying attention to the latest audio amp developments, and they see that this brand actually came back. So yeah, I'm going to test out these two together. I'm going to try out the Bluetooth on both of them, since that's the easiest way for me to get something playing on these two. So we can see what these two are about. But definitely, just from a glance, the Rotel, more industrial looking, a lot of different features, 2 speaker terminals especially, that's pretty unique. A little bit more power, 60 watts. And the Leak Stereo 130, more vintage looking. It has most of the features of the Rotel, except it doesn't have the 2 speaker terminals, and it has a few less like inputs, I guess. And yeah, that's I think that's pretty much the differences here. So I have a set of DALI Oberon 1 speakers I'm going to be using with both of these, and I think that's a nice speaker to use because first of all, the walnut grain finish makes it a really nice pairing with the Leak, and also the fact that its off-axis performance is really nice, and it's really hard to get on-axis speaker performance when I'm filming from a tripod. So yeah, I think the DALI should be a good pair of speakers to use with these. So that's it, guys. Stay tuned. Alright, so now I have the DALI Oberon 1s hooked up to my Rotel A12s. So we're going to test out the Rotels first. By the way, both of these amps support aptX. So yeah, both of these Bluetooth technologies should be fairly similar. But yeah, I have it set to Bluetooth right now for the Rotel. And I'll be using my Hy-Vee RS6 as my DAP to play some songs. So yeah, well, you can see how it sounds like. So first, the Rotel A12s into the DALI Oberon 1s. Let's see how it sounds. And I'll also show you guys how much power this thing has as well. This is 60 watts RMS, okay? Alright, Rotel A12s. So right now the volume's set to 60. Right? This thing can get pretty loud. So I'm going to turn it up not seem like a lot, but for most bookshelf speakers, it's more than enough. So yeah, I think the Rotels have a fairly neutral, balanced type of sound. I know ideally amps are not supposed to impart any kind of color in the sound, but the truth of the matter is they do. So yeah, the Rotels I feel like are fairly analytical. I tried out Nads, Cambridge, Marantz. They all have different sound qualities. Yeah, so that's the Rotel A12. Yeah, it's fairly balanced sound, so I really like it actually. So it definitely has a lot of power on tap, more than enough for, you know, desktop class bookshelf speakers. All right, so next we're gonna move on to the Leak Audio Stereo 130, and yeah, we're just gonna switch the speaker cables over. All right. And I'm actually really interested to hear how the Leak Audio sounds, because so I read about this direct mode right here. So this direct mode apparently is bypassing the analog circuitry for the purest sound, is how Leak Audio claims. So I'm interested. So weird thing about the Leak though is that it has two power buttons essentially. So there's one power switch at the back here I have to turn on. So right, I turned that on. You can see that this one lights up now. Actually, let's turn this off so you don't get confused. This one is the one that's playing. And then we have to press this power button on too. So you have to press 2 power buttons. There's one on the back and then one in the front. You got to press 2 power buttons in order to actually turn it on, which is a little bit weird. But yeah, I guess that's how it works. And then you can switch between the different inputs with the rotary selector. So that's a little bit different, right? With the Rotel, I should show you guys. Oh. Yeah, with the Rotel, in order to switch between inputs, you just, press the buttons here, right? So switch to phono, tuner, CD, USB, optical 1, coaxial, aux, PC USB, and Bluetooth. So that's how you switch between all the different inputs here. You just press the button. Here is a rotary selector where you choose the input here. But either way, once you select the Bluetooth input on either of these, you can find it with your you can find it on your phone or anything. You can kind of just select. You can see it on the Bluetooth list. So it's fairly easy to pair with both of these, I'd say, for Bluetooth. Let's play Bluetooth for the Leak Audio. So it's as simple as just switching to this. All right, and let's play the same music so we get a more direct comparison. All right, things turned on. Okay. Let's turn up the volume. Okay, this is the loudest it goes for the Leak Audio, which I think the Rotel probably has more power on tap. Because this one, this is the loudest it goes, okay? This is the full volume. Okay. So the loudest that the Leak Audio goes is about equivalent to the 60 power on the Rotel. So I think the Rotel has more power on tap than the Leak Audio does. Because this is the maximum. kind of feel the sound signature of the Leak Audio now. So first of all, the Leak Audio does not have as much power on tap as the Rotels. I can already see that. The volume is turned up to max right now. And it's about equal to about the 60 level on the Rotels, and the Rotels can go all the way up to the 80s. So yeah, the Rotel has like maybe 20% more power than Leak Audio, I think. I mean, if you look at the rated power rating, it makes sense. The Leak Audio said it can output 45 watts at 8 ohms, where the Rotels can output 60 watts at 8 ohms, so it makes sense. Leak Audio, it just doesn't have as much power as the Rotels. Okay, I don't know how well you guys can hear it from the video, but to me the Leak Audio definitely has a warmer sound than the Rotels. It's definitely warmer. So yeah, just everything has a little bit more warmth to it. The Rotels have more clean, kind of pristine, balanced, analytical type of sound. So that's how I feel from it. I also felt like the bass was a little bit more detailed from the Rotels. The bass was definitely a little bit muddier on the Leak Audio. Not to say that Leak Audio is just worse or anything like that. It's just a different sound signature. I think the Rotels definitely present more of a forward sound signature. So it's I think it's more mid-forward. But also everything has a little bit more definition and clarity from the Rotels. Leak has definitely a warmer sound signature for sure. I think maybe they're trying to make it sound more like a tube amp. So it's not a tube amp, but of course I know Leak Audio historically was associated with tube amps. So maybe they made the sound signature more warmer because they wanted to sound more like a tube amp. So I guess that kind of makes sense. And overall, the Rotel actually has a little bit more features than the Leak. But you know, I'd say that Leak Audio is still very good, but the Rotel is just fantastic value, right, for what it is. So you got to give it up to Rotel for that. The aesthetics, I definitely prefer the Leak, of course. The Rotel is just a no-nonsense, industrial, typical Japanese look, whereas the Leak Audio, I mean, look at the nice wood grain finish, right? I love it. So both of these are fairly versatile amps. They can both connect to your computer, have a decent DAC in them. Both have aptX Bluetooth, and both can connect to your TV or your turntable. And yeah, they both have a decent amount of inputs. So it really comes down to, do you want more power? This one has a little bit more power. Do you care about the aesthetic? This one's more industrial looking. I mean, the Rotel's more industrial looking, the Leak Audio is more vintage looking. And do you prefer more balanced sound signature, like on the Rotel, or do you want a warmer sound signature, like on the Leak? And that's really what it comes down to, I'd say. But I think both are nicely built, good quality, and have a decent amount of inputs, and both are far better value than any tube amps, actually, in my opinion. But tube amps are not about value to people, I think. Yeah. Anyways, I think that's my opinion on these two amps. I think they're both very good. Just comes down to preference. So yeah, that's it, guys. That's a comparison between the Rotel A12 and the Leak Audio Stereo 130. Which one do you guys prefer? I'd say the strengths of the Rotel is that it has a lot of features. It actually has a decent amount of power. And yeah, I'd say it's just a no-nonsense type of amp, very balanced type of analytical type of sound, I guess. So I guess it's more appealing to audiophiles who really just want to hear the music the way, with minimal amount of coloring. So yeah, I think the Rotel is just fantastic value. I think it's a great amp. You get two terminals as well. You can drive two different speakers, a lot of different inputs, and yeah, overall I think it's a great amp. The Leak Audio, I think aesthetically it looks better than the Rotels. It has a nice vintage finish. In terms of the sound quality, I was on direct mode too, I believe, right? Yeah, I was on the direct mode too. Personally, I think the warmer sound is very interesting. It pairs very well, I think, with my turntable, so I'm going to be using this in my turntable setup, which makes sense to me. It actually sounds a little bit like a tube amp, the amount of warmth coming from this. So it's not for everyone, but I think in a vintage type of setup, the Leak Audio will sound pretty good and fits in really well, I'd say. Also a decent amount of features, not as much as the Rotel, but still a decent amount of features. But yeah, I think the Leak Audio is pretty nice as well. I think this is why I'm going to be using my Rotel in my desktop setup and the Leak Audio in my turntable setup. Makes sense, right? I think it definitely aesthetically and sound signature wise, the Leak Audio fits better with a turntable. That the whole analog type of vibe with this thing. And then the Rotel is a little bit more modern, industrial looking. So anyways, I think these two are both great amps. They're both around the same price, $1,000, $1,200. The Rotel, you're getting a little bit more for your money. because it has a little bit more power and few more features. But then the Leak, what you're paying for basically is the first of all the aesthetic, kind of the brand as well, even though it's not like really well known or anything, but you're paying for kind of the history of the brand and that really warm sound signature that's very reminiscent of a tube amp. Even though it's a solid state amp, but I know that the sound signature is trying to be more like a tube amp. So yeah, but you're not getting as much power, but still 45 watts is enough. Basically when I turn it up to full volume, that's probably the max volume I want to listen at anyways. But if you need something louder for your room, definitely this will probably not have enough power to drive something like towers or anything like that. It's not going to have that much power. This is really just for like bookshelves like this. So yeah, the Rotels actually might be able to drive, but yeah, even then the Rotels actually make higher end stuff as well, like the RA1572 I had before. So the Rotels make even more powerful amps. Leak Audio only has those two models. They actually have a more powerful model after this as well, but the Rotels definitely have more models overall. So that's it, guys. The Rotel A12 versus the Leak Audio Stereo 130, Japanese design versus British design. Yeah, they're similar in many ways, but also different in many ways. So that's it, guys. As always, thanks for watching.
Hello, come into my place. Yeah, 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 yeah. Give me sit on nice space. Yeah, 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 yeah. 여기서 내 시간은 slow. 그는 시선은 low, low. 내게로 와서 feel it. 지금 기분에 맡겨 feel it. Hey, hey. 어서 들어와 널 더 알고 싶다면 아무도 모르는 날 만나보고 싶다면 궁금하다면 follow. 아무 말도 마, oh, oh. 이건 나의 비밀 계정 같은 거든 그런 거니까. 여기선 자유로워 우리 모두 다 말야. 나를 볼 때 반짝이는 그 눈빛이 좋아. 어지러지를 feel good. 아찔아찔해 feel good. 지금 내 기분은 rainbow in the sky. 기분이 밟고 올라가. By my side. 다가와. 조금 다른 날 만나게 해줄게. 'Cause I feel so good. Feel so Hello, come into my place. Yeah, 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 yeah. Give me sit on nice space. Yeah, 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 yeah. 여기서 내 시간은 slow. 그는 시선은 low, low. 내게로 와서 feel it. 지금 기분에 맡겨 feel it. Hey, hey. 어서 들어와 널 더 알고 싶다면 아무도 모르는 날 만나보고 싶다면 궁금하다면 follow. 아무 말도 마, oh, oh. 이건 나의 비밀 계정 같은 거든 그런 거니까. 여기선 자유로워 우리 모두 다 말야. 나를 볼 때 반짝이는 그 눈빛이 좋아. 어지러지래 feel good. 아찔아찔해 feel good. 지금 내 기분은 rainbow in the sky. 기분이 밟고 올라가. By my side. 다가와. 조금 다른 날 만나게 해줄게. 'Cause I feel so good. 너와 함께면 나 어디라도 좋아. 1초에 훌쩍 여기저기 거기라 내 손잡아. 한여름 밤의 깃털같이 우리들만의 파도 타기 볼게 우린 너무 많아. 하루 종일 더 깊이 빠져. 어느새 시간이 멈춰. 온종일 내게 설레. 가까워진 것만 같아. Come with me now. 넌 어디까지 가길 원해. 잠깐만 둘이 조금 더 멀리. Follow me now. 너와 함께 가볼래. We go, we go, we go, we go. 너와 함께면 나 어디라도